Hello and welcome to the NewWorldReview, your source for everything anime and manga, and today we are back with some more Black Clover review style things, or I guess thing singular because it's just one. But this just one thing happens to be the Hot Springs training camp arc, the shortest since our initial outings in the series, but a great experience with a ton of character development and in-world intrigue to be had. It's definitely not quite what I was expecting when I first heard the name of the arc. But as always, if you are enjoying these videos, then please do activate your finger motion and direct it towards both the like and subscribe buttons, because I can't really read comments due to spoilers, but I can see numbers. So if you want more of this allegedly Black Clover, then don't forget to do the thing. But starting with the premise of the arc, it starts out almost exactly the same as the Eye of the Midnight Sun arc, with Asta being ordered to take some time off. Except this time, instead of becoming embroiled in an epic clash against wildly powerful magic smiths, we actually do take the time to breathe and go to a festival, followed by a brief burst of training, and on paper, that's kind of that. And as sort of mundane as it sounds, I really appreciated it, and I think it worked quite well. Firstly, because it breaks the now established Black Clover pattern. We got through a handful of medium-sized arcs that all had very similar constructive tissue. You know, we get a call to action, explore a new location, face off against an enemy far greater than anyone was prepared for, defeat them anyway, and then move on to do it all again. Which isn't to say that's a bad thing, because Tabata tweaks that formula just enough to keep things interesting, but this 10-chapter arc is very much what I was looking for right about now. And it made me aware of something very intriguing actually, which is that the characters of this series are just so strong that we don't actually need a conflict or big bad enemies to make Black Clover captivating. Because I really was more than happy just following all of our protagonistic misfits and watching them interact with each other for this block of time, and in many ways it was almost like reading a more light-hearted high school comedy series. So that was a cool change of pace, and it was great to take some time to breathe and have fun after this string of massive action pieces. But our first point of focus here was the Star Festival, an annual event where we get to find out which of the Magic Knight squads impressed Senpai the most and earned the greatest amount of delicious star merits. And there was some very expected stuff here. For example, the Golden Dawn obviously won, and Yuno was obviously recognized for his absurdly great rookie efforts. What I did not expect was for the Black Bulls to rank smack bang in second place. When the ceremony began, I thought to myself that they'd either still be last but with a positive amount of stars, or that they would beat a single squad and still be just as shocked as they ultimately were to come second. Screw that though, we're jumping straight into second place, which seems a bit sudden, but at the same time, I believe the Wizard King said that Asta was now 16 as of the time of this festival, which I think means that a whole year has already passed since we received the Grimoire and joined the Black Bulls, which is kind of wild because my perception of time was something like, I don't know, a few months, but I do like it. One of my personal annoyances when it comes to shonen manga is not having that passage of time or a super slow passage. Like a My Hero Academia sort of feel, where after almost 300 chapters, Deku is still in his first year of high school, or Food Wars, where the vast majority of it also takes place in Soma's first year. But then again, I have to say I'm also a pretty massive hypocrite because I love One Piece, and the first almost 600 chapters of that basically play out over the course of a few months, so yeah. In conclusion, I like that Asta is older and that time is progressing at a nice pace. And me being me, I also really enjoyed seeing the list of all the reasons why the stars were awarded. This is the kind of little detail that Tabata really did not need to include. He could have just thrown a total amount up there and it would have been just as effective, but I like that he took the time to work out in great detail where the Golden Dawn specifically earned all of their stars. And of course, this arc actually marks a major step forward for the Asta-Yuno rivalry because both of them get recognized on stage by Mr. Wizard King, and they decide to show off a bit in order to win the favor or at least respect of the crowd. And this is a much bigger moment than any kind of power up or increase in rank, because here you have the Wizard King very publicly raising their profiles and practically holding them up as the base standard of the Magic Knight system. So we're starting to break through the discrimination aspect of them being lowly peasantry, or at least with the general crowd anyway. Although to be fair, the crowd here are just kind of upper class plebs themselves. Most of them aren't high nobility, so I'm sure there's still an extremely prevalent faction of noble supremacy. Which, sure, speaking of, we get to meet the actual king during this arc, a very, very disappointing man by the name of Augustus Kira Clover VIII, who spends most of his time here commanding to be glorified simply due to the achievement of existing. And all I can really say is that he looks, acts, and sounds exactly like I was expecting, especially the looks. He's such a standard royal king dude, bruh. Almost like he was pulled straight out of a box of a children's court playset. So I actually find him quite boring as a result. I think that Tabata could have gone to some more extremes with his design, you know, make him a lot uglier or even a lot prettier, just something to make him actually stand out. Unless, of course, that's the whole point. A purposely boring and underwhelming figurehead of nobility, I don't know, even then, I don't care for him. Like, it's not even that I don't like him, I just don't care at all for the king currently. It's very neutral. However, the king did have something interesting to say though, which I imagine seeds a future arc, which is that he plans to build a force of royal knights and have them directly attack the Eye of the Midnight Sun. Which brings up questions, ever so many questions, some of which posed directly by Asta. For example, why should we be under your command for such an important task when we have a much more capable military leader in the Wizard King? And also at least one from me being, what is even the point of going through this test? Surely if you wanted to do something like this, you just instruct the majority of the Magic Knights to do so, because they're already kind of under your command as king. And if you did indeed want some kind of super squad, then just scoop up all of the captains, maybe the vice captains, and form it that way. So beyond being a moron, I really don't quite get the purpose of what the king is doing here at the moment, but I'm sure his motivations will become clearer in the future. Or not, I'm actually not sure of that, so I shouldn't say that. But I did, and re-recording it would be a mild inconvenience, so I'm not going to redo it. But something else I wanted to highlight from the Star Festival though is the appearance of Kyoto and Kohono. It was nice to see them again and have them healed by the blood magic of the Witch Queen, but it was also kind of annoying because their whole thing with the underwater temple was that they had dreams of traveling to the surface and being performers, but were unable to do so for unspecified reasons. They just, weren't allowed to go to the capital because it was, and I quote, against the rules. But here they both are in the capital, and it's one of those things where it could have been fixed with just one line saying something like, our grandfather gave us permission to travel to the capital for this one day, or just something, anything. I'm still kind of annoyed that we never really got to explore the culture of the sea folk or find out why they were so purposely self-isolated. But after the whole Star Festival business, things get very suddenly amazing with the introduction of a certain Marileona Vermilion, who from here on out I will only refer to as Cisco Leon because it's much easier to say and it's kind of adorable. But I really do love this whole family. The Vermilion family and the Crimson Lions are easily one of my favorite factions in the series, and Cisco Leon does not disappoint at all. I love her fiery nature. I thought it was hilarious that she managed to conscript everyone, including 2 Magic Knight captains, into her scheme, and I really do like that she managed to continue the whole Fuego Leon legacy of inspiration. I mean, Cisco Leon is certainly much more brutal than Fuego Leon, but she managed to push both Asta and Noelle in exactly the right direction, very much mirroring the actions of her brother. Except I suppose actually Fuego Leon influenced both Asta and Noelle with profound words. Meanwhile, Cisco Leon did the same, but mostly through action, which was a nice contrast. And in fact, Noelle herself took quite a few steps forward in this very short 10 chapters, both with the aforementioned growth with Cisco Leon, but also coming to her own philosophical view on nobility. And I find it a very interesting thing that Noelle has chosen to embrace her noble heritage, because usually in this sort of story, the good noble characters would generally come to abandon that side of them. The whole idea of we're all equal, so I shall cast aside my nobility and such. But here, in Noelle's case, she chooses to recognize that everyone is not indeed equal. She has been granted a greater level of power than most, and so she now sees it as her having a great responsibility to use that power to help those without it. So it's a very nice spin on the royal character trope, and after Noelle said that, I had the exact same reaction as Asta, where I was like, I guess I do like Noelle quite a bit. And there was some more information dropped about Noelle's mother, the Steel Warrior Princess, which basically represents the polar opposite of what Noelle is, with her magic said to be dignified beyond all belief. And I want to know more about her, a lot more about her, because she seems like quite a legendary figure of pure awesomeness. And weirdly enough, the more I learn about Noelle's mother, the easier it may become to empathize with Noelle's siblings, who, to be clear, are still complete and utter bricks. But there is definitely a harsh reckoning to come to terms with when it involves not only the sacrifice of your mother, but one of the kingdom's greatest mages. And I don't know if Black Clover is the kind of series that would go that deep, but I can see where the really twisted psyche kicks in there. And it also does put tremendous pressure on Noelle to live up to her mother's legacy, a task which she seems to have embraced, and I do look forward to seeing her progress further. And as for Asta, I think it's also important to note that he seems to have discovered a mechanism to activate his, I suppose I don't really know what to call it yet, a partial transformation. Leopold calls it Black Asta, which, sure, that's fine. I do like how Ki was worked into it, which is still a little bit of a weird subsystem to me, but whatever, let's go with it. And someone else who got expanded upon quite a bit would be the captain of the Blue Road, Charlotte. And at the very least, as a result, I can kind of get on board with her Yami obsession now. Charlotte and Vanessa actually have shockingly similar Yami backstories, where he just stumbles in and saves them from whatever hell they're trapped in before casually wandering back out. I do wish that Charlotte was treated a bit more like a captain though, and less like comic relief, although I do have to admit that there was this great panel at the end of the arc where she was all flustered at the thought of Yami being naked. But I do wish that the Yami obsession wasn't currently her defining characteristic. I mean, for example, I really don't like Noelle's tsundere obsession with Asta, but at the very least that part of her is always secondary to Noelle's primary story focus, which is learning to control her power and living up to her family's legacy. But with Charlotte, everything is very much geared towards Yami because her curse is directly tied to him having stolen her heart, and I don't know. Right now, I just find her much less interesting than most other characters in the series. But when everything is said and done, which is about now, this was a great little mini-arc. I applaud Tabata for taking the time to just sit and dwell on some interactions between our main cast protagonists, whilst also finding a way to incorporate a hell of a lot of development into it. Not just emotional either, because everyone present at the training camp got a lot of power development as well, and we got to do all of it without a single battle required. So it was a pleasant break and some much needed variety for the series, and as a result, I feel rested, rejuvenated, and more than ready to tackle our next challenge. But that pretty much does it for this blind review of the Hot Springs training camp arc. And what do you guys think? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below, or even join my Discord server. And if you are keen for some more Black Clover content, then please do go and check out some of my other videos, or even subscribe to the channel for very, maybe regular Black Clover goodness delivered straight into your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.